when the galaxy discovered Earth's Hold My Beer archives. The quantum processors hummed with an almost musical note as head archivist Vex Luminox conducted their routine scan of the newly acquired Earth databases. Their phosphorescent eyes reflected the soft blue glow of countless holographic screens floating in the archive chamber. 3 centuries of studying Earth's digital history had made them an expert on human culture, or so they thought. Section 2149 contains standard social media archives. Section 2150 shows expected technological progression data. Vex muttered to themselves, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. Then they froze. Wait. Computer, return to hidden subsection 2149. B. The holographic display shifted, revealing an encrypted database with an unusual label. Vex's antennae twitched with curiosity. Computer, translate database title, they commanded. Translation confirmed. Hold My Beer, Earth Historical Archives, circa 1900 to 2150 CE. Vex blinked all 4 eyes in succession. Run translation verification. Translation accuracy, 99.99%. Phrase, hold my beer, appears to be an idiom with no direct galactic standard equivalent. The head archivist's purple skin rippled with confusion. In 15,000 years of cataloguing alien cultures, they'd never encountered such a puzzling archive label. Their assistant, Nexus Prime, glided into the chamber, crystalline form shimmering under the archive lights. Something interesting? Nexus asked, noticing their superior's agitated state. Interesting doesn't begin to cover it, Vex responded, gesturing at the display. What kind of civilization creates a classified database named after a beverage containment request? Nexus Prime's crystalline structure shifted in what might have been a shrug. Humans are peculiar. Remember the Tide Pod Challenge archives? This is different, Vex insisted, their fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The encryption level on this database matches their highest military protocols. Whatever hold my beer means, they thought it was important enough to protect. The massive quantum servers surrounding them pulsed with energy as they processed the encryption. The collected knowledge of 10,000 civilizations resided in this chamber, yet this simple Earth phrase had stumped even the most advanced AI translators in known space. Should I alert the Council? Nexus Prime asked, their form shimmering with uncertainty. Vex's antennae twitched forward, a sign of intense concentration. No, not yet. Let's see what's inside first. Their appendages moved with practiced precision across the holographic interface. Breaking encryption now. Little did they know, they were about to discover why humans had become simultaneously the most feared and admired species in their sector of the galaxy. The database cracked open like a cosmic egg, spilling thousands of video files into the holographic display. Vex selected the first one, dated 2025 CE. The chamber darkened as the footage began to play. A human figure stood at the edge of a gleaming metal beam, silhouetted against a towering metropolis. The height counter in the corner made Vex's inner organs clench. 150 stories up. No safety harness, no anti-grav units, no emergency teleport beacon. Just a human in loose clothing, wearing something called running shoes. This must be some kind of simulation, Nexus Prime whispered, their crystalline form vibrating with anxiety. Then the human jumped. Vex's scream echoed through the archive chamber. Nexus Prime crystallized completely in shock, a natural defense mechanism, but the human was laughing. Like some impossible creature born of mathematics and madness, the figure twisted through the air, sailed across a deadly gap, and landed on another beam. They rolled, popped up to their feet, and immediately started running toward another jump. Computer, verify footage authenticity, Vex managed to croak out. Footage authenticated. Source, security camera feed, Shanghai Financial District. Subject identified as part of human activity, designated parkour. The next sequence showed more humans, leaping between buildings, flipping across gaps that would give a gravitational engineer nightmares. Each one moved with calculated precision, turning the vertical city into their personal playground. The Council needs to see this immediately, Vex declared, their professional composure completely shattered. Within 30 minutes, the Grand Chamber was filled. The hive mind of the Zix Collective buzzed in their containment sphere. The quantum consciousness of the silicon worlds projected itself across 3 dimensions. The gaseous philosophers of Nebula 9 condensed into their observation clouds. Even the notoriously reclusive energy beings of the Helios cluster had sent a representative. High Councillor Amaranth's bioluminescent patterns shifted rapidly between shades of disbelief as the footage played. "This changes their entire species classification," they announced. "No rational beings would—" "Wait," interrupted Junior Councillor Zenith, their tentacles coiling with excitement. "Look at their calculations. Each jump is precisely measured. The momentum transfers, the impact absorption techniques. This isn't just reckless behavior. This is applied physics at its most practical." The chamber erupted in debate. The hive mind split into 12 competing arguments. The quantum consciousness began calculating success probability ratios. The gaseous philosophers started emitting complex mathematical formulas in their vapor trails. "There's more," Vex announced, queuing up another file. "Much more." High Councillor Amaranth raised all 3 hands for silence. "Before we continue, we need to address the classification implications. These humans are either completely insane or they've found a way to push their species' capabilities beyond anything we thought possible," Zenith finished. "The question is, which is it?" The quantum consciousness pulsed with an answer. "Statistically speaking, both." "Next file," High Councillor Amaranth commanded, their patterns now pulsing with a mix of dread and fascination. The chamber filled with new images, humans in strange suits with webbed wings, hurtling through planet-side canyons. Their bodies skimmed mere meters from jagged rock walls, at speeds that made the Silicon World's representatives recalculate their physics models. "They're flying," gasped a gaseous philosopher, momentarily forgetting to maintain their cloud form. "Not flying," Vex corrected, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Falling with style." The footage showed dozens of these wingsuit pilots threading impossible needles, narrow rock arches, twisted caverns, gaps between trees. The worst part, they were celebrating, whooping, cheering, as if Dancing with Death was the greatest party in the galaxy. "Surely this is the most extreme," Amaranth began. "Oh no," Nexus Prime interrupted, queuing up the next sequence. "It gets better. Or worse, depending on your perspective." The new footage began underwater, deep underwater, the kind of depths where even advanced submarines needed special reinforcement. Yet there was a human down there, carrying nothing but a small breathing apparatus and wearing a thin suit. "Current depth, 332 meters, the computer announced. The hive mind collectively gasped, causing their containment sphere to vibrate. The pressure at that depth would have crushed most sentient species into quantum particles. "Different human," Vex noted, advancing the footage. "Current depth, 349 meters. "They're competing," Zenith realized, tentacles writhing with excitement. "They're actually competing to see who can dive deeper into an environment that should be instantly fatal." One of the energy beings flickered in what might have been a nervous tick. "Please tell me that's the end of it." Vex's antennae drooped slightly. "Actually, maybe we should take a break before the space tourism footage." "Space tourism?" The quantum consciousness pulsed. "But according to our records, humans didn't have stable artificial gravity during their early space exploration period." "Correct," Nexus Prime confirmed, already queuing up the next sequence. The footage showed early space tourists performing zero-gravity acrobatics outside their primitive vessels. Their safety equipment looked like something a child would design. Simple tethers, basic pressure suits, and what appeared to be manually operated maneuvering units. "Notice the date stamps," Vex pointed out. "This was barely 20 years after they achieved reliable orbit capability." A collective shudder ran through the chamber. Most species waited at least a century after mastering spaceflight before allowing civilians anywhere near a spacecraft. That's a malfunctioning waste disposal unit, Zenith noted, peering at one clip. And that human is surfing on it? Riding it through atmospheric re-entry, Vex confirmed. Apparently they dubbed it Operation Shooting Star Rodeo. High Councillor Amaranth's patterns had shifted to a deep ultraviolet of concern. I believe we've seen enough to make some decisions about classification. There's still several thousand files left, Nexus Prime mentioned. I said, Amaranth repeated firmly, patterns flashing. We've seen enough for now. The Council quickly assembled a research team to make sense of this disturbing yet fascinating human behavior. Cultural anthropologist Kira Nexus, known for decoding the mysterious mating rituals of the quantum jellyfish, was pulled from their sabbatical to lead the investigation. Look at this pattern, Kira announced 2 weeks later, their holographic form flickering with excitement as they addressed the Council. Every video begins with a gathering of humans. There's always beverages present, usually this beer substance. Then one human turns to another and speaks the phrase. The computer played a montage of clips, each featuring the now familiar words, "Hold my beer." It's a ritual challenge, declared Professor Max Rigel, a behavioral specialist who joined the team. His gelatinous form rippled as he pointed at the data streams. But here's where it gets interesting. After the phrase is spoken, the chances of the human attempting something unprecedented increase by 487%. Kira nodded, their holographic hair shimmering. We've cross-referenced the database with human achievement records. Nearly 43% of their extreme sports records were set immediately after someone uttered these words. That's impossible, buzzed the hive mind representative. You're suggesting their major achievements are based on drinking challenges. Not exactly, Kira corrected, pulling up new datasets. The beverage itself appears to be secondary. It's the social dynamic that matters. When one human says, "Hold my beer," to another, they're not just showing off. They're participating in an informal peer review system. The chamber murmured with interest as Kira continued. The phrase appears to temporarily override their survival instincts, allowing them to attempt feats that their own physiology should prevent. We're calling it the beer holder paradox. Professor Rigel's gelatinous form wobbled with enthusiasm. It's brilliant, really. Their entire species has evolved a social mechanism for pushing past their natural limitations. One human holds the beer, becoming the witness and record keeper. The other human attempts the impossible, knowing their achievement will be documented. And this is normal for them? High Councillor Amaranth asked, patterns showing distinct concern. Normal? Kira laughed, their holographic form briefly destabilizing. It's fundamental to their development. We found evidence of similar behavior dating back to their earliest records. Before they had beer, they probably used other objects. The phrase just formalized the process. The research team's final report was damning in its conclusions. Humans weren't just taking pointless risks. They were systematically using social pressure and liquid courage to expand the boundaries of what their species could achieve. Consider their early flight attempts, Professor Rigel pointed out. By our standards, the Wright brothers' first attempt should have been classified as a suicide pact. But someone probably looked at those wooden wings and said, "Hold my beer," the council chamber echoed in unison, finally understanding. Kira's hologram grinned. Exactly. And now we need to decide, what do we do with this information? Because this database, it's just their highlight reel. Somewhere on Earth right now, someone is holding someone else's beer, and history is about to be made. The council chamber fell silent, each species contemplating the implications. The humans weren't just crazy. They were crazy with a purpose, and that was either terrifying or brilliant. "Show them the historical footage," Kira commanded, their holographic form expanding to encompass the entire chamber. All of it. The room darkened as centuries of human achievement flickered to life around them. Grainy black and white footage showed humans strapping themselves to rickety wooden contraptions, attempting to master flight decades before they understood basic aerodynamics. Notice their expressions, Professor Rigel pointed out, his gelatinous form quivering with excitement. Every single one of them is smiling. They're not just risking their lives, they're enjoying it. The footage shifted to early motorcycle stunts, humans launching themselves across canyons on machines that seemed held together by hope and wire. Then came the first attempt at breaking the sound barrier, followed by footage from their early space program. "By the void," whispered a gaseous philosopher. "They went to space in what amounts to a pressurized food container with rockets attached." "And here's the kicker," Kira announced, freezing a frame from NASA's archives. "Look at what's written on the side of this early test rocket." The council leaned forward collectively. Scrawled in what appeared to be maintenance chalk were the words, "Hold my beer, Soviets." Their entire space race, Kira explained, was essentially a planetary-scale version of their favorite social ritual. Two global powers looking at each other saying, "Oh yeah, watch this." Professor Rigel's data streams pulsed with new information. "We've analyzed their rate of technological advancement. Every major breakthrough in human history was preceded by someone doing something that, by any rational species standards, should have been impossible." The footage continued, showing base jumpers developing wingsuits, free runners revolutionizing urban movement, and early tests of personal jetpacks. Each clip revealed humans pushing not just their personal limits, but the limits of what their entire species thought possible. "This changed everything we thought we knew about human advancement," Kira continued. "We assumed they progressed through careful, methodical research like every other species. But look at this." New holographic displays showed parallel timelines. One marked expected development path, showed a steady, logical progression of technological advancement. The other, labeled actual human development, looked like the brainwave pattern of a quantum physicist on stimulants. "Every spike, every unexpected leap forward," Professor Rigel explained, highlighting various points, "correlates with someone doing something that should have killed them. But instead of dying, they invented something new." The quantum consciousness pulsed with a realization. "The zero-gravity manufacturing techniques we've been struggling with for centuries. Invented by a human who got bored during a spacewalk and decided to try welding upside down, yes," Kira confirmed. "The safety tether snapped, by the way. They finished the weld anyway." High Councillor Amaranth's patterns shifted through shades of amazement. "So, when we first encountered them and saw all this apparently reckless behavior, we completely misunderstood what we were seeing," Kira finished. "We thought they were an unstable species prone to self-destructive behavior. In reality, they've turned calculated risk-taking into an art form. They're not being reckless. They're speedrunning evolution." The chamber erupted in discussion. The hive mind split into so many competing theories, they had to request a larger containment sphere. The gaseous philosophers began condensing complex risk-reward calculations into visible forms. "Consider the implications," Professor Rigel continued, barely containing his excitement. "Every other species in the galaxy advances by building on proven concepts. Humans? They look at the impossible and treat it as a personal challenge. They don't wait for technology to catch up to their dreams. They jump and build their wings on the way down." "And this database," Kira concluded, their holographic form pulsing with intensity, "isn't just a record of their craziest stunts. It's the key to understanding how humanity went from cave paintings to quantum computing in the evolutionary equivalent of a long weekend. They turned Hold My Beer into a technological accelerant." High Councillor Amaranth rose from their hovering platform, bioluminescent patterns blazing with newfound clarity. "This changes everything. Not just their classification, our entire understanding of species development." "Motion to reclassify the database," Zenith announced, tentacles swirling with formal gestures. "This isn't just some collection of stunts. This is arguably the most important anthropological discovery in the last 1,000 years." The quantum consciousness projected their vote first. Reclassification approved, suggested designation, Advanced Species, Cultural Archive, Priority 1. The vote was unanimous. Even the traditionally cautious energy beings pulsed their approval without hesitation. But there's more, Professor Rigel bubbled excitedly. We've been analysing their current projects. Remember how we thought their antimatter containment experiments were recklessly premature? Well, look at this. New holographic displays showed humans casually solving engineering problems that had stumped other species for millennia. Their solutions weren't elegant or technically sophisticated. They were the equivalent of hitting a quantum computer with a wrench and somehow making it work better. They're not just advancing faster than we thought possible, Kira explained, their holographic form practically vibrating with excitement. They're doing it in ways we never imagined. While we're calculating optimal solutions, they're in their garages inventing warp drives out of spare parts and energy drinks. The chamber erupted in another round of intense discussion. The gaseous philosophers began spontaneously forming complex molecular structures in their excitement. The hive mind had to spawn 3 new subminds just to process the implications. Think about what this means for the galaxy, Zenith continued. Every apparently crazy human solution we dismissed, every time we thought they were being reckless, they were actually innovating at a level we couldn't comprehend. High Counselor Amaranth's patterns shifted to a deep gold of determination. We need to revise all standing protocols regarding human interaction. Effective immediately, any time a human says, "Hold my beer," we don't run away, we start taking notes. The proclamation sent ripples through the assembled species. Centuries of carefully maintained diplomatic distance from the unpredictable humans suddenly seemed like a massive missed opportunity. According to our latest data, Vex added, mandibles clicking rapidly, humans are currently working on 73 projects we previously classified as impossibly dangerous. We may want to reconsider that classification. The council members looked at each other, each species coming to the same realization. They had severely underestimated humanity. What they had dismissed as a species-wide death wish was actually the most aggressive innovation program in galactic history. Less than a standard solar cycle later, humanity received their invitation to join the Galactic Council. The ceremony was broadcast across 17,000 worlds. Every species sent representatives, eager to witness the integration of the galaxy's most innovative risk-takers into the galactic community. Earth's ambassador, Alex Chen, stepped up to the ancient podium, their ceremonial robes fluttering in the artificial breeze. The grin on their face made Vex's antennae twitch nervously. "On behalf of humanity, we are deeply honored by this invitation," Chen began, "and we enthusiastically accept. However, there's something you should probably know." The chamber went silent. Even the gaseous philosophers stopped their eternal swirling. "That database you found, the Hold My Beer archives." Chen's grin widened. "That was just the stuff we thought you could handle." High Counselor Amaranth's patterns froze mid-pulse. "What? Computer?" Chen called out, eyes twinkling with mischief. "Access Earth Historical Archives, Volume 2, codenamed Watch This." Vex's mandibles clicked once, then they fainted dead away as the new database began to play. The last thing they heard was the sound of the quantum consciousness beginning to weep. The hive mind's containment sphere cracked slightly as the first images played. The energy beings flickered so rapidly they nearly shorted out the chamber's power grid. High Counselor Amaranth's patterns cycled through colors previously thought impossible for their species to produce. "Is that human riding a black hole?" someone whispered. Chen shrugged. "We got bored waiting for you to discover us. Had to keep ourselves entertained somehow. Now, who wants to see what happens when you combine a jet-powered surfboard with a tornado? We call it Project Sharknado Hold My Beer Edition." As the new footage began to play, the assembled species realized 2 things. First, inviting humans to join the council wasn't just a good idea, it was probably the only way to keep an eye on what they were doing. And second, the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. In the medical bay, Vex regained consciousness just in time to hear the humans' latest proposal being discussed. Something about multi-dimensional skateboarding. They promptly fainted again. The galaxy would never be the same, but at least it would be entertaining. End.